And for analysis, we bring in Jamal Abdi. He's the president of the National Iranian American Council. Jamal, great having you. How significant are U.S. strikes like Operation Midnight Hammer in tipping the balance toward war or diplomacy?
Well, I think if we're not in war, then we are on the verge of war, and I think we'll need to see how the Iranians respond. I don't think the Donald Trump administration has a strategy in place, and while I thought Steve Witkoff was sort of a breath of fresh air beyond the politics of Washington that have ensnarled efforts to engage Iran diplomatically, the two sides talked for 60 days, and they had a handful of meetings. Real diplomacy needs to be much more intensive than that. I think for the Iranians, they have to be asking themselves, what does Trump actually want? And for them, they need to, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Donald Trump broke the Iran nuclear deal. Then he, in his second term, entered negotiations, and in the middle of those talks, actually bombed Iran. So I think the trust is completely gone, and it's still an open question. What does the president actually want? Or is Netanyahu calling the shots? In which case, I think there is no diplomatic goal. The goal is exactly what we are seeing right now, war, and sort of a permanent war that just continues and continues, because Netanyahu, the last thing he wants, more than an Iranian nuclear weapon, the last thing he wants is the United States and Iran to be engaging one another and having a normal relationship.
At the same time, Iran threatens escalation, threatens U.S. bases, threatens choke points in the region, especially for oil. I'm speaking about the Strait of Hormuz. How could international diplomacy keep Iran to stop trying to create a greater conflict?
It certainly would be welcome, I think, if there were international efforts to rein in Israel and the United States. President Trump is saying he's putting the onus on the Iranians to make peace. It was the Iranians who were at the negotiating table. So I just don't know if there are any outside actors that have the president's ear right now to the degree that Benjamin Netanyahu does. And so if there is a real interest for this administration in not getting involved in a regime change war, in not eventually being in a position to put boots on the ground, they too should be looking for an exit ramp from this. And I don't see from the administration the will to actually find that ramp. Instead, they are doubling down on their talking points, sort of demanding Iranian capitulation at the negotiating table. So something does need to change. Maybe that means outside actors. I've been very disappointed with how the E3, who were part of the nuclear talks the first time around with Obama, how they have responded to this and essentially adopted the Israeli red line of no enrichment, which is a pathway to a diplomatic impasse, which leaves only terrible options like what we're seeing unfold now on the table.
And Jamal, at the same time, moderate Arab states do have the president's ear, President Trump's ear, and they could mediate something and create a regional diplomatic forum that could help de-escalate this crisis.
I think this is probably the most, the option with the highest potential right now. We know that Oman was brokering the negotiations that President Trump upended, but the region is different today than it was 10 years ago when you had Saudi Arabia and UAE opposed to the negotiations. Now, I think that there is a greater sense of ownership on those states' parts. They know that the United States is not necessarily going to bail them out if Iran decides to retaliate against their oil facilities or other sabotage efforts. And so they have a real stake in stability in the region. And so potentially you could see the Gulf Arab states playing some sort of mediating role because they have that interest. And I think that's something that is worthwhile for all parties to test.
Jamal Abdi, thank you for your time. Great having you.
Thank you.